We're on to one of my favorite projects now. This is a paper cutout technique. You'll see it all over the internet. And it's actually really easy to do. And we're going to create one with a shark in there. Of course, if you don't like sharks, you could do a different type of fish. But I'll take you through it step by step. Let's go. Now for this project, we're going to do something for Instagram. So I'm going to make a new document. Click on new document there. And I want to find an Instagram size. Now, if we go down here to the options, we really are looking at the web options over there. We've got social media posts in there. And in fact, that social media square post, 1080 by 1080, is perfect for Instagram. So I'm going to choose that, and it puts in the size for me. The DPI or resolution doesn't matter, but we must make sure that it's on RGB up the top there. I'm going to click OK. Now let's start by adding a square to this. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to draw a little rectangle, and when I'm drawing my rectangle over there, I'm going to put one finger down to make it a perfect square. Now I need to make sure this is right in the middle. So if I use my move tool now and I move it around, you can see when I get to the middle, that little red line flashes up. If I go left now, I've got a green line. That's perfectly in the middle. And that's because the snap option is switched on. If you don't see those, switch on your snap option. I'm just going to give this a slightly different color because that gray that we've got there is a little bit on the dull side. In fact, I'll go with that blue there. Now I want to do a circle in the middle as well. So I'm going to go in here, find my ellipse. When I'm drawing an elliptical shape like that, if I hold down one finger, I get a perfect circle. If I hold down two fingers, I get to be able to draw from the middle outwards. If I hold down three fingers, I get a perfect circle drawn from the starting point as well. In fact, I'm going to just move that along into the middle like that. Now we're going to take both of those, select them both, and I'm going to go up to my geometry, and I'm going to subtract the middle one from the outer one. So basically it's transparent in the middle like so. And then I'm going to go and put a bit of a drop shadow on here. So I'm going to go to my effects, and the effect I'm after, because I want a shadow in here. I'm not concerned about the outside. I want a shadow in there. Now, you would think you would use the inner shadow, but you don't. You actually use the outer shadow. If I use the inner shadow over here, and just switch it on, you'll see we can actually get a shadow on the shape itself. So I'm going to be using the outer shadow, switch it on there, and if I pull it down, you can see we've now got a shadow underneath that shape. But this is what I'm interested in over here. I'm not worried about the outside. And when we look at the settings, I can actually change the distance of that shadow. I find it easier to actually do it manually by just dragging it around, but it's up to you. Over here, we can change the softness of that shadow. So I'm going to make it a little bit softer, like so. And then we can change the opacity of that shadow as well, make it lighter or darker in there. You can always come back to this if you've done it incorrectly and change it later on. But I'm going to start off with something like that. Have a go and get to this stage. I want to make a copy of this now. So I'm going to go back to my Move tool, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to copy this where it is. So going up to the menu over here, I'm just going to say duplicate. So I've actually got a second one on top of the first one here. Let's look at the layers, and you'll see there are two of them there. Now I can go to the corner and I can start to scale it. But if I scale it with one finger over there, it will scale proportionately. Two fingers will scale from the middle but scales disproportionately. Three fingers scales from the middle but proportionally. And that's what I want to do here. So let's have another one like that. I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go over here and choose duplicate. And there we go. We've got a bigger one already And if I go again, duplicate, I get another one. So I can just keep going with these sizes. Let's have one more in there, duplicate, up to there. So a lovely fast way of just getting things to increase in size. Otherwise, you can do them manually if you prefer. Now, when you get to this stage here, you might think that some of these shadows don't look as good as they could. So you might have to start selecting items, going back to your effects, and then clicking on shadows, and you can then just adjust the shadow over here, making it harder or softer, and just adjust it until you get the look that you're after. We can even move that around a little bit, like so. Now, to get to this one here, to the next shape down, I'm going to just undo that. I'd go to my Move tool, and if you can't click on it in there, you can always select it by going into your layers as well. So on to the next one, over to my effects, and we'll just have a bit of a play with that one there, see if it looks better like so. There's no right or wrong here, just adjust it to what you think looks good. Don't forget to watch out for this little area down here. If you move things too much, you might not actually be able to see the whole of that circle. Anyway, try that out. Now, before we bring in a picture to trace, I want to lock all these objects. And I want to show you another way to do it. If we go to our layers over here, what you can do is you can click, and then if you drag over to the right, the other ones that you want to select at the same time, you can select multiple layers like that very quickly. And then I'm just going to go up to the options and choose lock. And as you can see, it's locked all of them in there really fast. Now, once we've locked those, we're going to go and find a picture to trace. Now, we're going to have a shark in here. If you don't like sharks, find something else. It's not a problem. But some sort of interesting shape that you can use, which will be recognizable as a silhouette. I'm going to go along to the libraries, and I'm in Pixabay at the moment, so I'm going to find shark. And there's quite a few different sharks. I'm just looking for a profile of a shark that would work really well with this. So something which is instantly recognizable. That's an interesting one there because you can recognize that quickly. That one looks like quite a good one. So I'm just going to drag that and drop it in there. Yep, I think that's a nice shark profile. I will make it a little bit smaller over there. Finger on there to make sure I'm scaling it proportionately, just so it's big enough for me to trace easily. Have a go, get your picture ready to trace. Now I'm going to go to my layers, and I'm just going to lock the shark as well, so I don't move it by mistake while I'm drawing. And we're going to use the pencil. Now I'm going to zoom in a bit, and we're going to do the shark in a few shapes. I'm going to do the body and the tail first, and then I'm going to do the fins separately after that. So with my pencil there, I'm going to go and choose a stroke and a fill. I don't want a fill, but on my stroke I want that to be white, so it's easy to see against this dark background. You can choose any color you like, it really doesn't matter at all. And then I'm going to have to check out some of these settings. Now, first of all, I'm going to use a rope stabilizer to just stabilize it a bit. And you'll see with my rope stabilizer at the moment, it's not too long, and it gives me a reasonable number of points. If you want to adjust it, just change it over there so you can get things which are a little bit more smooth. So I think my width, maybe I'll take that up a little bit as well so I can see what I'm doing easily. That looks a lot better. And for the end, I don't want to finish the end, so I'm going to switch that off, and I'm going to have the sculpt switched on. So if I happen to let go at some point, I can continue on with that line. Let's try this out now. So I think I've got everything that I need. I'm going to start over there, and I'm just going to go around the shark. If you can see past my hand there, you can see how it's just drawing, following that little rope. You don't have to be too perfect with this, as long as it looks roughly like a shark. That's what we're after. And let's go down underneath the shark, back to the beginning again. So I can now move this if it's not quite right. I'll use the node tool, select that point and just pull it in a little bit like that. Move that around. And these two here, which are not quite together, let's just pop them together like so. Now I'm going to do the fins as well, so using the pencil once again, same process. I'm going to start in here, go along to the fin. Let's do this one over here. This is going to be a rounded one. Oh, I don't like that, so 2 fingers to undo. Let's try that again. That's better. We've got a fin going out the side here. Little one over there. Oh, that's a bit too big. Sometimes it's easier to just redo it rather than adjusting it later with the node tool, and a little one over there. Now what I want to do is I want to fill these with white, so I'm going to make sure they're selected, go along to my fill options, and I'm just going to flick those over so it becomes white that way. Now we want to be able to move this around and move it together, so I'm actually going to group it as well. So up to the top, I'm just going to choose group in there, which will then make it appear to be one shape. Let's go to our layers, and we don't need to see that picture anymore. In fact, we're completely done with it, so we can actually unlock it by just clicking on the little lock there, and I can delete it from there. And there we go. I've now got my shark over here. I'm going to go and just change its fill color to something else, and let's just use pure white in there. I don't think I actually need a stroke on that, so I'll just check that there's no stroke in there. We'll change the background color shortly so we can actually see the shark properly. Now I'd like to have a bit of a shadow underneath my shark, so it sort of shows up with a bit of depth really, so it doesn't look like it's sort of stuck inside there. So as before, I'm going to go along to my effects. I'm going to show outer shadow, make sure it's switched on, and just move it across like so. Let's get some text into this graphic. I'm going to go along to my text, and I'm going to be using the artistic text. Once again, just click over there, artistic text down the bottom. And to put in my text, I'm just going to click once. So I'm going to move to the top, click over there, and put in my text. Now I want to use the word shark in here, so I'm going to do it in all caps. And the typeface that I'm using is condensed, but you can use anything you like. Now I'm going to scale that up a little bit. So using my selection tool, or my move tool shall I say, I'm going to scale that right up, but I'm going to hold down the shift key so it will scale proportionately. I think that will be quite good. Let's pop it in there. I want to change the color of that as well, so I can go in, click on my fill, and make that white. Now I'd like to have the same thing over here, because this is all about security, so it's going to say shark security or shark secure systems. You can say whatever you like with yours. But rather than having to get the text exactly the same size down here, what I can do is just hold down 2 fingers and drag a copy of that, and then I can change this bit of text in here. You just select all my text. Selected the text, I'm just going to change it to security. I'm just using lowercase over there. Now, let's use that my move tool again, pop it back down there. Now, the text at the top, I want to adjust this text a little bit. You can see the word shark. It actually sort of almost looks like a shark shape, because we've kind of got the body of the shark there, and then the K is like a shark's tail, and the A, if I extended the A up, that could be like a little top fin. And I know you're looking at me and thinking, Now you've really lost it, Tim. But bear with me. So what I want to do is I want to adjust these characters into more of a shark shape. So I'm going to go along and convert them from editable text into something which is just shapes, which happens to be in the shape of text. So if we go up to the top, and what I'm going to say is convert to curves. It's over there, it's halfway down the operations. Now it looks exactly the same, but let's have a look in the layers. And what you'll see is that this shark word is actually a group. Look at the security, that just says security on there. That's normal text, there's a little A over there. This is a group. If I click on it, you can see all of the characters are there individually. So this means that I can select them. I'm going to select the R from shark, and I think I'll just use my move tool over here, and I'm going to scale it in. So I'm going to start to scale it, but I'm going to do a few fingers. So remember, one finger scales proportionately, two fingers scales from the middle out, three fingers scale proportionately and in like so. And I'm going to move it across over to there, and then I'm going to go back over here, select the K and push that in a little bit as well, like that. Now, not only can we do that, I can then also use my node tool, and I can then select the individual points over here. Now I'm going to go along and select the A, and I can then select these points here. I'll just drag over two of them, and I'm going to pull that up into a sort of a fin shape. Now I want to just select this one over here, pull it down, so we get that lovely sort of shark fin feel. Let's see what we can do with a K on the end to make it more of a tail. So same again, I'm going to click on the K there to select it, and I'm going to select, I'm just going to try that one there and pull it up, this one here, into a shark fin shape. You can do this with any of these shapes at all. I can try it with the S. Not sure how successful this is going to be, but this is why you've got to you've got your undo. I'm going to just select those points there, pull them around. It looks more like a fish hook, doesn't it, on there? I actually preferred it just as a standard S, so I'll just use two fingers to go back again. But do have a little bit of a go with that. If you want to try it with the security, by all means do so. But we're just looking to maybe convert this into some sort of shark type of mini word logo. Have a go. Don't forget, up there, and it is your convert to curves. Try it out. Now, I'd like to make the background a different color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shape, and I'm just going to use a rectangle. Put the rectangle over everything and choose the color that I want to use for that background. And I think that color will probably go quite well, maybe a little bit more orangey. There we go. That's quite interesting. Obviously, if this was for a client, I would use their brand colors for this. Now I need to move it to the back, so I'm going to click on my layers, and I'm just going to click and hold and then drag it all the way down underneath all of those. Don't drop it inside, but just underneath to get it to the back. And I think for balance, I'm going to just move my shark down a little bit into there and maybe make it a bit smaller. So once again, one finger in there to scale it proportionately. Now, if I'm happy with this and I want to then save it out, what I can do is I can go along to export. Now I'm going to be exporting it. So I've gone to those three lines there, click on export, and I'm exporting it as a JPEG for the web or for social media. I've chosen JPEG in there. The sizes are 1080 by 1080 because that's the way that we created the document. And then down here, I'm going to go along and I want to just check the ICC profile. Now we haven't talked about this yet, but if you're saving something that is going to go onto the screen, we can use different profiles in here. Now, you might think Adobe, big name, that would be a good profile. Apple's a good profile. But in fact, one of the best profiles for anything that goes on screen is this sRGB profile. It's S is for standard RGB. If you choose one of the other ones, like a P3 display or an Apple or Adobe, you might find that your colors look slightly different on different browsers, because those browsers aren't able to read these profiles. But almost every browser or bit of software should be able to read a sRGB profile. Now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to click OK. And it says, where do you want to export this to? Well, I'm going to export it onto the desktop of my cloud document, give it a name, and I will save that out. Now that's saved it as a JPEG, which is a flat file. It doesn't have all of these layers in it. So at the moment it doesn't seem to be a problem, because if I close this down, there it is still, and that's the one with all the layers. But what about if I close this one down? I would lose the whole thing. So we can also save this as a file specifically for Affinity, and it'll have all the layers in it. And we do that by going to the three little dots. Whatever you do, don't close it down with a little X yet. I'm going to just say save as over there, give it a name. You can see it's got an extension of AF Design. And I will click on save in there, and it says, where do you want to save it now? And once again, I will also save it on my desktop over there as Shark. So I can now close this down without any problems. I can close the document down. Even though I don't have it in here, I can always open it up because it still exists in there. If I go to open document, I can go to my desktop and it's in here somewhere. I've just got to find it because I've got quite a few. And there it is. Open that up and it's back in here with all of the layers intact. So just remember, if you do close these down, you do need to do an extra save to make sure that it all will be available for you. Have fun with that. Try creating all sorts of other shapes as silhouettes on these paper backgrounds.